Hayes sat in his physics class on a normal Tuesday afternoon. The class was almost empty because most students did not take advanced physics. Mr. was writing equations on the board about motion and energy, watched the numbers and understood them well. He was good at seeing how things worked. The classroom was quiet except for the sound of chalk on the board. Two other students sat in the back. A girl named Emma was taking notes. A boy named Chris was looking out the window. Mr. did not notice them not paying attention. Loved this class. He loved how physics showed him that the world had rules. Everything moved and changed by laws that made sense. When he found a problem, he could solve it by understanding these laws. At 2:47 in the afternoon, the classroom door opened. Three shapes entered the room that made everyone stop moving. They were not human. The first creature was tall and thin. Its body looked like it was made of clear crystal that caught light in strange ways. The crystal had colors inside it that moved and shifted. It did not have a face like humans. Instead, the top part of its body had shapes that looked like musical tuning forks. These shapes vibrated in the air. The other two creatures with it looked different. They were smaller and had hard skin that looked like metal. They did not move like humans moved. They walked with steps that were too smooth and too perfect. Behind these three creatures came a human woman in a military uniform. Her name was Commander Wells. Everyone in the school knew her. She was the Earth liaison to the Galactic Council. She had come to the school many times to talk to students about Earth's place in the galaxy. But today her face looked tight. Her mouth was a straight line. Mr. turned from the board. His chalk stopped moving. He stared at the creatures in his classroom. "Good afternoon," the crystal being said. Its voice was not like a voice. It was a sound like wind chimes mixed with the hum of electricity, but somehow understood the words. They could make sounds that human brains could understand, even though the sounds were strange. "We are here on behalf of the Galactic Council," the crystal being continued. "I am Researcher Hen. We conduct assessments of developing species. Today we assess your young people." Mr.'s face became red. "I was not informed about this. I have lesson plans. These students have exams to prepare for." "This is official Galactic Council business," one of the metal-skinned creatures said. Its voice was flat and cold. "Earth jurisdiction does not apply to Council operations. Your planet agreed to this when you joined the Council." Felt his heart start to beat faster. He looked at Emma and Chris. They looked scared. Commander Wells stepped forward. She looked at Mr. "Mister, please step aside. This is not something we can prevent. The Council has authority here." Mr.'s face showed anger, but he said nothing. He moved away from the door. Researcher Hen made a sound like wind chimes. Two small devices came from pockets in its strange crystal body. The devices scanned the three students. Light came from them and touched each student one at a time. "Yes," Hen said. "These three will do. They show the markers we seek." The metal creatures moved forward. One walked to, the other walked to Emma, did not move. He did not know what to do. The creature next to him was taller than he was. Its skin looked hard and cold. "Come," the creature said. "We go now." Stood up slowly. He gathered his books because he did not know what else to do. Emma and Chris stood up too. Chris looked like he might cry. Commander Wells looked at each of them. When she looked at, something changed in her eyes. She blinked once and then she stepped forward. "Mister," she said, "please give these students their homework. They will be back soon." But her voice was not normal. It was careful. The way she spoke told that maybe they would not be back soon. Maybe something else was happening. The three students walked toward the door. Other students in other classrooms had put their heads out to watch. Saw their faces through the glass windows in the doors. Some looked surprised. Some looked scared. As past Commander Wells, she moved close to him. She whispered so quietly that only he could hear. "Stay calm, observe everything, do not fight. I will explain later." Heard her words? They made his fear bigger, not smaller. If Commander Wells was worried, then something was truly wrong. The creatures walked the three students down the hallway and down the stairs. Other students watched them go. No one said anything. Everyone watched the crystal being and the metal creatures walk through the school like they owned it. The doors at the front of the school opened. Outside, a ship sat in the middle of the schoolyard. It was not like any airplane had seen. It was long and smooth. It had no windows. The sides of it showed colors that made eyes hurt to look at them. A door in the ship opened. A ramp came down. Inside, the metal creature next to said, Emma was crying now. Chris looked straight ahead and did not look at anything, walked up the ramp. The metal inside the ship was cool under his hands. He could feel it vibrate. The ship was alive with power. Inside, seats were waiting for them. The seats were shaped wrong for human bodies. They did not fit right, sat down anyway. The seat moved and adjusted until it was uncomfortable but possible. Through the opening of the ramp, could see the school getting smaller. The ship was moving. The ground fell away. He watched Earth get smaller below them. His school became a small square. His town became a small mark on brown and green, then clouds covered everything. The ship was moving fast, felt pressure in his chest. He looked at Emma and Chris. They were quiet and scared. "Where are we going?" Chris asked. No one answered him. The metal creature stood near them and did not move. Its surface reflected the light from the ship's walls. It looked like it was made of silver and steel. It looked like it did not have feelings. Thought about what Commander Wells had said. Observe everything. He looked at the ship. He looked at the metal and the lights and the way things worked. He tried to understand. He was scared, but he tried to understand. The ship moved up and up. The curve of Earth got smaller, then could see space, real space, black and empty, stars that did not twinkle. He was no longer on Earth. He was no longer safe. The ship entered a space station that made forget to breathe. It was not big, it was massive. The station floated against the black of space like a giant wheel made of metal and light. Pieces of it spun in different directions. Tubes connected different parts. Ships moved around it like insects around a nest. The human ship moved into a docking bay. The metal around them clamped down and held the ship still. Felt the change in motion in his stomach. Doors opened. The metal creatures stepped out first. Then Emma and Chris followed them into the station. The hallway was too cold. The lights were too bright. Everything smelled like nothing. There was no air smell, no sound of nature, just the hum of machines. They walked for a long time. The station seemed to go on forever. Different creatures passed them in the hallway. Some looked like animals, some looked like plants, some looked like things had no words for. Most of them did not look at the three humans. A few stopped and stared. Finally, they reached a door marked with symbols that could not read. The metal creature pressed its hand on a panel. The door opened. Inside was a large room with white walls. There were 3 separate spaces separated by transparent glass. Each space had a single chair in the middle. Around the chairs were machines with screens and moving parts. Metal arms hung from the ceiling. Nothing Saw made complete sense to him. A voice came from all around the room. It came from no speaker. It came from everywhere. "Welcome, subjects," the voice said. It was cold and exact. Every word was perfectly clear. "I am Doctor. I oversee assessment protocols for the Galactic Council. You are here to be measured. You are here to show what your species is capable of. You have been selected because your preliminary data suggests you may provide useful information." The 3 humans looked at each other. Emma was shaking. Chris looked angry. "You will now enter the testing spaces," Doctor continued. "Each test will measure different aspects of your cognitive function. There is no pain. There is no danger. Follow the instructions on the screens. Do your best." A metal creature pointed at the first space. Walked to the space and sat in the chair. Emma went to the second space. Chris went to the third. The glass walls became opaque, could no longer see them. The screen in front of him turned on. Words appeared. "Spatial reasoning test. You have 10 minutes. Solve the puzzle." The screen showed a 3-dimensional shape that rotated slowly. Other shapes appeared below it. Had to find which shape would fit into the space in the larger shape. He had seen tests like this before in school. He rotated the shapes in his mind. He found the answer. Then he found the next puzzle, and the next. He finished with 2 minutes left. The screen changed. "Logical reasoning test. You have 15 minutes. This test showed sequences of numbers and symbols. Had to find the pattern and complete it. His mind moved through the numbers like water through channels. Pattern after pattern became clear to him. He finished with 5 minutes left. Test after test came. Some were easy, some were harder, but was good at seeing patterns. He was good at solving problems. He finished most tests with time to spare. After 1 hour, the test stopped. The glass walls became clear again. Could see Emma and Chris. Emma looked tired. Chris looked angry and upset. He was staring at his screen like he wanted to break it. The metal creatures came back. They took each student to a different room. was alone in a small white room with only a chair. A speaker was somewhere in the walls. Your results are acceptable, Doctor said. Your spatial reasoning and logical patterns are above the human average. However, your species shows significant variance in cognitive ability. One of your groups scored in the lowest percentile. This suggests human inconsistency. This is not favorable for species advancement. Humans are unpredictable. Unpredictable species are not trusted in the higher councils. Did not say anything. He did not know what to say. You are different, however, Doctor continued. You solve problems in ways that are not purely logical. You use methods that other species would call guessing, but your guessing leads to answers. This is strange. This should not work, but it does. We do not understand this yet. The door opened. A metal creature stood in the doorway. Come, it said. They took back through the station. They moved through different hallways. They walked past areas where he could see into laboratories. He saw machines he did not understand. He saw creatures working at stations with tools that made no sense. Then they reached a section of the station that was different. The walls here were not perfectly smooth. There were panels, there were seams, there were places where the metal bent and turned. This section looked older than the rest. Doctor's voice came from everywhere again. You will be given a tour of basic station systems. You will see how advanced technology maintains a station of this size. You will see why your species is limited compared to galactic powers. The metal creature pressed buttons and opened panels. It showed environmental systems. It showed him power distribution. It showed him how water cycled through the station. It showed him how the station's computers controlled everything. Watched carefully, he watched the way the systems connected. He watched where power flowed. He watched the pipes and the wires. He watched everything. Then something caught his attention. In the environmental section, there was a strange design. The pipes ran in a pattern that did not seem right. The backup systems were not connected to the main systems correctly. If one system failed, the other system would not take over properly. Instead, it would create a cascade. One failure would cause more failures. The whole system would fall apart. It was a flaw, a big flaw. Pointed at the pipes. Why are these not connected in parallel? If the main system fails, the backup cannot support the station. The metal creature did not move. Doctor spoke. Your observation is incorrect. The design this station. Technology is superior to human understanding. You are seeing the design but not comprehending it. Your species often confuses observation with knowledge. This is why humans remain in the lower ranks of the Galactic Council. Said nothing more, but he remembered the pipes. He remembered the flaw. He did not know why it mattered, but something in his mind told him it mattered. They took him back to a small room. The metal creature said, "You will rest now. Tomorrow, more tests." The room had a bed. It had a bathroom. It had nothing else. There were no windows. There was no way out. Did not sleep. He lay in the darkness and thought about the pipes he had seen. He thought about the design flaw. He thought about why Doctor had said he was wrong when he knew he was right. In the morning, or what felt like morning because there was no sun here, a metal creature came to his room. It gave him food that tasted like nothing. It tasted like the air smelled, like nothing at all. Ate it anyway because he was hungry. Then the test started again. More puzzles, more patterns, more problems to solve, but this time notice something else. The tests were not the same as before. These tests were different. These tests seemed to be testing his reactions. They seemed to be testing how he made decisions when he was tired. He started to understand something. The tests were not really about measuring his intelligence. The tests were about something else. They were about finding something in humans that they did not like. On the third day was in a testing space when the screen changed. It did not show a test. It showed a video. The video was of Chris. Chris was sitting in a testing space just like. Chris was answering questions. Chris was failing. Chris was getting frustrated. His answers became wild and angry. He stopped trying to solve the problems correctly. He just clicked buttons without thinking. Felt his chest become tight. Chris was not good at these kinds of tests. Chris was smart in other ways. But these tests made Chris angry, and when Chris got angry, he fell apart. The video ended. Doctor spoke. Your group member has shown emotional instability. Under pressure, his cognitive function decreased significantly. He became erratic. This is not favorable. Species with unstable emotion patterns are considered dangerous. Your species shows too much emotion. Too much emotion leads to unpredictable behavior. The Council fears unpredictable behavior. Wanted to say something. He wanted to say that Chris was smart, but he said nothing. For the next 3 days, took tests with Emma and Chris. But something was happening that could feel but could not see. Doctor kept talking about how inconsistent humans were, how humans could not be trusted, how humans might become a threat to the stability of the council. Emma and both performed well, but Chris performed worse and worse. The tests seemed designed to make him fail. They seemed designed to show that humans could not work under pressure. On the 6th day, everything changed. Was eating his tasteless food in his room when the screen on the wall lit up. It showed a message in text. The text was not from Doctor. The text was different. The text was coded in a way that took him a moment to understand. The message said, "Do not trust the assessment, the lie. They prepare to contain humanity. Stay alive, observe, report to Wells when you return." Read the message 3 times, then it deleted itself. His heart was beating very fast. Someone on the station was working against someone was trying to help humanity. Someone was telling him that the tests were not real assessments. They were something else. They were something dangerous. That afternoon, they brought Chris to the main testing room for the final assessment, and Emma were made to watch from a separate room through a transparent wall. Chris was tired. He had been tested for days. His body was tired. His mind was tired. He made mistakes that he would not normally make. He failed problems that he could solve. He became emotional and angry. Doctor recorded everything. When it was over, the metal creatures took Chris away. Did not see him again that day, or the next day. When Chris finally came back, he looked like something had broken inside him. He did not speak. He did not look at or Emma. He just sat in his room and stared at the wall. A metal creature came to. "You and the female will complete final assessments tomorrow. The emotional male has completed his assessment. He will return to Earth tomorrow." So they were sending Chris home. They were sending him home to tell everyone that the assessments were hard and that humans were not smart enough for the Galactic Council. That was the plan. That was what they wanted. That night lay awake again. He thought about the message. He thought about what it meant. They were not really assessing humans. They were preparing to contain humanity. They were gathering data to show that humans were too unpredictable and too emotional to be trusted. And then understood something else. The test results were already decided. No matter what an Emma did, the results would show that humans were a threat. The tests were designed to fail humanity. The results were already written. Someone had sent him that message because they wanted him to understand the truth. Someone wanted him to be ready. The next morning, Chris was taken away. The metal creature said, "He returns to Earth. He will report his assessment results." Watched Chris leave on a small ship. Chris looked small and lost. Then it was Emma's turn. They were brought to a new testing space. This testing space was different. It was bigger. It had more machines. It had more screens. Doctor spoke, "Final assessment. This test will measure your ability to solve complex problems under extreme pressure. You may work together or separately. You choose. You have 2 hours." The screens showed a problem. The problem showed a system with multiple parts. The system was failing. Things were breaking down. Pressure was increasing. Temperature was rising. They had to fix the system before it failed completely. Looked at it carefully. Something about the system looked familiar. The way the parts connected. The way the backup systems were designed. It looked like the station's environmental system he had seen on the tour. It had the same flaw. Realized what was happening. They were showing him the station's real system. They were testing if he would understand the flaw. They were testing to see if he could see the vulnerability that Doctor had said did not exist. Emma was working on solving the problem through the normal methods, but did something different. He looked at the system design. He found the flaw. He showed Emma. "If we break this connection here," said, "the cascade will start, but we can use that cascade to overload the pressure release. We can save the system by destroying the flow in this section first." It was not the normal way to solve the problem. It was not the way the test expected them to solve it, but it would work. Emma understood what he meant. They did it together. The system stabilized. They solved the problem using a method that was not in the test instructions. Doctor was silent for a long time. Then the voice came. "You used methods that were not provided. You improvised. You created solutions that were not taught. This is unexpected." But there was something else in Doctor's voice. There was concern. Had shown him something he did not expect. had shown that humans could think in ways that could not be controlled or predicted. The tests ended, and Emma were taken back to their rooms. The ship that took Emma back to Earth was different from the one that had taken them up. This ship was smaller and faster. It was also more guarded. Metal creatures with weapons stood at the doors. Realized that they were protecting them, not protecting them from harm, protecting them from talking to anyone, protecting them from telling anyone what they had seen. During the flight Emma sat next to, she was quiet. She had always been quiet, but now she was different. Her eyes looked like they had seen something that could not be unseen. "Did you understand what happened?" asked her in a very quiet voice. Emma looked around. The metal creatures did not seem to be watching them, but knew they were. They watched everything. "They were not testing us," Emma whispered. "They were testing themselves. They were testing if we would fail, and when we did not fail, they got scared." Nodded, Emma was right. The whole assessment had been designed to prove that humans were not ready for the Galactic Council, but had shown Doctor something that computers could not predict, had shown him human creativity. The ship landed at the same spot on Earth where it had left, and Emma walked down the ramp onto human ground. The air was different here. It smelled like trees and soil. It smelled real. Commander Wells was waiting for them. She looked worried. "Get in the vehicle," she said quickly. "We do not have much time." They got into a military transport. Wells was driving. She was tense. Her hands were tight on the steering wheel. "What happened up there?" she asked. Told her everything. He told her about the tests. He told her about Chris failing. He told her about the final assessment. He told her about the system flaw in the environmental design. He told her about the messages. Wells listened without speaking. Her face became darker and darker. When finished, Wells said, "They have been planning this for months. We have suspected it but could not prove it. But what you have told me is proof. They are gathering intelligence to create a profile of humanity. Once they have that profile, they will present it to the Galactic Council. They will say that humans are too unpredictable and too dangerous to be trusted. They will ask the Council to place restrictions on human advancement. They will ask the Council to prevent humans from getting weapons or advanced technology." "But why?" Emma asked. "What do they gain from that?" Wells's jaw became hard. "Because there is a war coming. There is a faction in the Galactic Council called the Collective. They want to control the galaxy. They are building weapons, very big weapons, weapons that can destroy planets. They are part of this plan. They want to make sure that humans cannot fight back. They want to make sure that humans are weak and divided when they strike." Felt cold. "When is it coming? When will they strike?" 3 days, Wells said. "Maybe 4. We are still gathering information, but the indicators are all there. Military movements, weapons being positioned, communications between the and the. It is all coming very soon." They drove to a military base. It was hidden. It was underground. There were soldiers everywhere. There were screens showing information about ships and weapons and positions in space. Wells took Emma to a secure room. There were other military people there. There was also a man in a government uniform. His name was Director. He was important. Everyone looked at him when he spoke. "Young man," Director said to, "you have provided us with critical information. The system flaw you observed could be the key to everything. If the station has the same vulnerability, and if other weapons share the same design, then we may have a way to fight back." "We do not have weapons powerful enough to fight them directly," another officer said. "But if we can disable their systems through cascading failures, we might be able to stop them." Wells looked at, "We need you to go back up there." Felt his stomach drop. No, I cannot. I just got back home." "I know," Wells said. "I know what I am asking, but we do not have anyone else who knows the station like you do. We do not have anyone who can see the flaws in their design the way you can. Chris could not understand it. Emma can see the pattern, but she does not have the same instinct you have. You are the only one who can do this." Wanted to say no. He wanted to go back to school. He wanted to be normal, but he looked at Emma. He looked at the maps showing where the weapons were. He looked at the images of Earth from space. "If they destroy Earth," said quietly, "then none of this matters. School does not matter. Normal does not matter." Director nodded. "That is correct, young man. That is exactly correct." 2 hours later, Emma were on a ship that was not. It was human military. It was small and fast and invisible to most sensors. It was moving toward the station. The plan was simple but very dangerous. and Emma would board the station pretending that they had questions about their assessment results. The military would give them small devices hidden in their clothes. These devices would record the station's internal systems. These devices would take pictures and video of everything they saw. Then they would look for the command center. They would look for the communications logs that showed the plans. They would gather proof of the conspiracy. And then they would have to escape. If they discover you, Wells had told them before they left, you call for immediate extraction. We will send a ship, but there will be fighting. There will be danger. Had nodded, he understood what she was saying. She was saying that they might die. The human ship docked at the station. The metal creatures came to meet them. They seemed surprised to see Emma again. We have questions about our assessment, Emma said. She was very brave. Her voice did not shake. Your assessment is complete, the metal creature said. You should be in school. We want to understand better, said. We want to know what we did wrong. The metal creature did not understand why they would want this information, but Doctor had told them to bring humans when they returned. Doctor wanted to study more because of his unusual thinking patterns. So the metal creatures let them in. And Emma moved through the station. Their hidden devices recorded everything. They moved through areas they had not been before. They saw laboratories and weapons storage. They saw communications equipment. Then they found the command center. The door was locked, but Emma had learned something from the tests about how the security systems worked. She found a panel. She used the knowledge from the final assessment. She opened the lock. Inside the command center, there were screens showing everything. There were messages between thee and the collective. There were attack plans. There were weapon schematics. And there was something else. There was the blueprint for the weapon, and it had the same system flaw that had seen in the station's environmental design. Took pictures with his hidden device. He recorded everything. Emma kept watch at the door. Then the alarm started. The red lights began to flash. The metal creatures were coming. Someone had discovered them. Run, Emma said. They ran through hallways they did not know. They ran past creatures that tried to stop them. Behind them, they could hear the metal creatures moving fast. Their footsteps were loud and heavy. Emma ran toward the docking area, but the doors were closing. They were sealing the station. They were trapping them inside. Saw a panel on the wall. He saw the environmental system controls. He saw the pipes that fed water and air through this section. He saw the vulnerability that was built into the design. He made a decision. He pulled Emma toward the environmental panel. He started to enter commands. He started to shut down the backups. He started to reroute the pressure. What are you doing? Emma screamed. The cascade said, just like the test, we break it to save it. He hit the final command. The station shook. Alarms screamed. The pressure in this section began to rise. The metal creatures behind them stopped moving. They were trying to stop the cascade, trying to save the station. But the cascade was already spreading. It was spreading like a fire. It was spreading through the entire environmental system. A small corridor opened up. It was an emergency vent, an old section that was not important. The metal creatures were not guarding it because they did not care about it. Emma ran for it. They crawled through the vent. Behind them, the station was falling apart. The cascade was spreading everywhere. They came out at a docking bay. The human military ship was still there. The pilot saw them and started the launch sequence immediately. The station had been destroyed. The cascade that had started had spread through every system. Whole sections had shut down. The weapons that they had stored there were destroyed. The leadership had evacuated to other ships, but the station was gone. Within hours, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. Commander Wells had shown them the evidence, the hidden messages, the weapon schematics, the communication logs between thee and the collective. She had shown them the proof that the assessment of humanity had been a lie. She had shown them that they had been planning to present false data to the Council to turn them against Earth. They could not deny it. The evidence was too strong. Too many species had seen it. Too many had realized that they had been lying. But the real attack was still coming. The collective launched their weapon across space. It was a massive thing. It was a ship that was half weapon, half living creature. It had been designed to attack and destroy. It was heading toward Earth. The human military had only one chance. They had to use what they knew about the weapon's design flaws. They had to use what had learned. The human fleet launched from Earth. It was small compared to the weapon, but Commander Wells had a plan. In the command center on Earth watched the battle on screens. He was not a soldier. He was a high school student. But he was the only person who understood the weapon design. He was the only person who could see the vulnerabilities that others had missed. "The power core is here," said, pointing at the schematic that was floating on the screen. "If we can overload this section, the backup system will try to compensate. That will cause a cascade in the primary cooling system. And if we time it right, the cascade will reach the main generator before the secondary systems can protect it." Wells nodded. She was on the command ship in space. She could hear perfectly through the communication system. "Do it," she said to her pilots. The human ships attacked. They targeted the power core section that it identified. They struck hard and fast. The weapon tried to protect itself. Its systems fought back. Its weapons destroyed 3 human ships. Soldiers died. But the damage was done. The cascade started. Watch the schematics light up on the screen. The cascade was spreading exactly the way he had predicted. Power was failing in section after section. The weapon was shutting down from the inside. The collective tried to jump the weapon to faster space. They tried to escape, but the cascade had damaged the jump drive. The weapon was trapped. One of the human ships, commanded by Wells herself, moved in close. The ship was small. The ship was armed with thermonuclear weapons. One shot. One perfect shot at the moment when the weapon's shields were at their weakest. The weapon exploded. It did not just break apart. It exploded like a star. The pieces scattered across space. The forces aboard were destroyed. The threat was gone. The human fleet had won, not because they had weapons as powerful as but because they had something they did not expect. They had creativity. They had the ability to see in ways that others could not see. They had a high school boy who could understand complex systems and find their hidden weaknesses. Humanity had proven itself worthy. 3 weeks later was back in his physics classroom. Mr. was teaching equations about motion and energy. Nothing was different in the classroom. The desks were in the same places. The board was the same board. The chalk made the same sounds. But everything was different in the galaxy. The Galactic Council had held a special session. They were stripped of power. They were expelled from the council. The collective was declared an enemy of all galactic civilization. A new treaty was signed. Humanity was no longer a junior member of the council. Humanity was a full member, with full rights, with full protection. But did not feel like a hero. He felt tired. He felt like he had aged years instead of weeks. He had seen creatures from other worlds. He had been tested by machines he did not understand. He had destroyed a space station. He had helped win a battle. And he was 17 years old. Commander Wells stood at the back of the classroom. She was now a teacher at school. She taught physics. She was teacher, but she was also something else. She was the bridge between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. After class, Wells asked to stay. Emma stayed too. They sat at desks while Wells stood by the board. "How are you?" Wells asked. "I do not know," said truthfully. "I do not feel normal." "You will never feel normal again," Wells said. "That is the burden that you carry now. You know what you are capable of. You know what humanity is capable of. You cannot go back to not knowing that." "Why did you choose me?" asked. "Why not someone else?" "Because you could see," Wells said. "That is the most important gift, the ability to see what others miss, to see the flaw in a system, to see the pattern that others cannot see. That is what saved humanity, not weapons, not power, just the ability to see." Emma spoke up. "What happens now? Will there be more tests, more missions?" Wells looked at both of them. "That is your choice. The Council would like to have you as liaison officers. They would like to train you. They would like you to represent humanity in the galaxy, but you can say no. You can choose to be normal high school students. The choice is yours." Thought about this? He thought about returning to normal. He thought about doing homework and going to parties and worrying about college. But then he thought about how close the galaxy had come to destroying Earth. "I want to help," said. Emma nodded. "Me too." Wells smiled. It was the first real smile he'd seen on her face since they had left Earth. "Then we have much work to do," she said. As walked home from school that day, he looked up at the sky. The sun was setting. The stars would come out soon. And in those stars there were other worlds, there were other civilizations, there were other challenges waiting. He was not a normal high school boy anymore. He was something more. He was a bridge between humanity and a galaxy that had not known what humans could do. They had dragged a human schoolboy out of his classroom. They had thought he was nothing. They had thought humans were nothing. They had thought that taking a boy from Earth would help them prove that humanity was weak and unpredictable and dangerous. But they had been wrong. The boy they dragged away was like a honey badger, small, seemingly insignificant, but fierce, brave, willing to fight when his home was threatened. They had pulled the honey badger out of its nest, and the honey badger had torn apart their entire plan. Humanity had proven itself, not through conquest, not through force, but through creativity and courage and the ability to see what others could not see. As walked home, he realized that he was smiling. He was scared about what was coming. He was uncertain about the future, but he was also proud. He was proud of what he had done. He was proud of what humanity could do. The galaxy had dragged out the honey badger. And now the galaxy would have to face what the honey badger could accomplish. The end. As their ship pulled away from the station, looked back. The station was breaking apart. Whole sections were shutting down. Power was failing. The cascading failure was destroying everything. And it was destroying more than just the station. Could see weapons docked there. Weapons that belonged to the weapons that were being stored there. The cascade was destroying them too. The human ship jumped into faster space and disappeared. Had destroyed the station. Emma was safe, and they had the proof that was needed. They had the evidence of the conspiracy. But it was not over. It was only the beginning. The real war was just about to start. That night the message came again on the screen. Tomorrow you board ship home. But know this, the real assessment is just beginning. The fear what you showed them today. They will move quickly. Tell Wells everything. Tell her about the system flaw. Tell her about the environmental design. Tell her that humans must be ready. Then the message deleted. Did not sleep. He waited for the morning. He waited to go home. He waited to tell Commander Wells what he had learned. Everything had changed. He was no longer just a schoolboy taking tests. He was something else now. He did not know what. But he knew that something was coming, something that would change everything. Lay on the bed and thought about everything he had seen. He thought about Emma and Chris. He thought about his school. He thought about Earth. The room was so quiet that he could hear his own heartbeat. He did not know if he would ever see home again. Something was happening that was too big for him to understand. But he would try. He would watch. He would learn. He did not know why Commander Wells had told him these things, but he would remember them. The ship moved faster toward something could not see.